Time management is actually about self management. Are you clear about what your life priorities are? Like in my case, there are 8 areas in my life which I have identified which are important to me, like health, profession, learning, relationships, finance, social, spirituality, and hobbies. It could be travel, adventure. Now, I want to balance all of these over a period of time. I cannot have all of these elements in single day, not even a week. But am I doing all these 8 important things in my life over a period of months? Or a 3 months or a 6 months or a year? If I think I can do that over that time period, I think I feel that I am balanced. My life is balanced. So one needs to look at work life balance in a holistic way.
This is episode number 7 of the Midlife Station podcast with career expert Hemant Deshpande. Hello, this is Rupesh Nahar, the host of the Midlife Station, a podcast where we bring in experts and interesting stories of pathbreakers who have transformed themselves during their midlife so that we can get educated and work towards the betterment of our midlife. Welcome to another episode of the Midlife Station. I am super excited to interview our today's guest, Hemant Deshpande. After working for 18 plus years in IT industry, Hemant found his true calling in coaching mid-level and senior level professionals. His goal is to help them find a purpose so that they can live their life of purpose. Today, he works with mid and senior level professionals who are feeling stuck, stagnated, or confused about their careers. He uses world-class assessment tools such as Strengthscope, proven 10-step Career Reinvention Process, and other powerful techniques in order to help them to gain clarity and also reinvent their career. He is also a mentor to CXOs as well as the business owners. In this power-packed episode, we gather Hemant's insights on why Hemant moved into the career coaching space, how to go about doing career assessment and scientific ways of finding one's strength, how can one approach his career transition, why does stagnancy begins to creep into the job, what actions can one take to reignite their career growth, how can one achieve work-life balance, and a lot more. Before we jump in, I would request you to please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Spotify so that you don't miss on any of our future episodes. And to all my listeners out there, I am soon planning to launch a segment where I will ask in questions that you have for a guest and also acknowledge you in the episode. So kindly drop in your burning questions you have along with your name either on our contact page of our website, themidlifestation.com/contact, or you can write to me directly with your name and questions at rupesh@themidlifestation.com. Now, without much further ado, let us dive straight into the conversation with our today's guest, Hemant Deshpande. Hi Hemant, I am quite elated to have you on the show today. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Hey, thanks Rupesh for having me. I'm also very excited to be here with you today.
Wonderful, pleasure is all mine, Hemant. So, Hemant, you focus on quite deep into the career consulting for mid-level professionals,
Mm-hmm.
where you help them with all their career needs, be it change in the career or growing in their career, or even helping them to understand as to what they need from the career standpoint. But before we go deeper into it, I want to take you some 5-10 years back in time when you yourself were working in a corporate job and trying to discover yourself. So, can you share with us that story on how did you discover as to what you were passionate about? And was there any eureka moment or aha moment that flashed during that time?
Yeah, sure, Rupesh. I mean, that's a great question that you ask. And as you ask that question, I automatically, kind of through a flashback went, 6, 7 years back in my life. And I could recall that it was year 2013. I was in China. I was working with, large IT multinational company at that time. And I was on an assignment in China, and that is where I started thinking about how is my career going, what is it that I want to do next. And at that point in time, I was actually undergoing a mentorship program within the organization where I got you know an opportunity to talk to a colleague of mine, a senior colleague of mine who was from completely different department to talk about my career, what I want to do. And I think when I was expressing myself and having conversations with him, freewheeling conversations, I realized that, hey, I'm doing something which I'm really good at, I'm getting appreciated for, but there is something missing. I realized that I was not doing what my heart really wanted to do. I was not following my heart. So that's where I started thinking about what should I do next in my career, what will really give me happiness. And that's where really the whole you know career reinvention journey started. And yeah, so that's where it all started. And then the journey went on for about 2 years till the time I actually made a switch, but that's where it all began.
So, Hemant, while you were discussing all these things with your colleague, at what point of time did you realize that you want to move forward and go ahead with coaching the mid-level professionals, helping them in their journey, or helping them take career decisions for them? So, this part or this niche, what is it that helped you decide that you want to go ahead and work in this area?
As I was contemplating about what should I do next, so I was at a mid career. I mean, I had 18 years, 18 fantastic years of my career by that time, where I had worked in the US for many years, about 5 to 6 years. I had worked in Europe, I had worked in China, and I had tested success as well as failures in my career. And at that juncture of my life and my career, when I started thinking about what should I do next, I was not clear about it right from day one. I was thinking about what should I do next, and there was confusion, there was fear, there was anxiety also. And that's where I started reading some books around what I like to do, what are my interests, what are my strengths. If I am not doing the work that I'm doing now, what will give me excitement, what will interest me to do next. So it's like the second innings of my life, second innings of my career. Now during that time, I was handling large responsibilities at the company. So on one side, there were huge professional responsibilities that I was carrying, and on the other hand, this churning that was going on inside of me that was telling me that, hey, you need to look at what you want to do next, find out what you want to do. And also, being a family man, my son was only 2 years old at that point in time, not even 2 years old, 1 year old at that point in time. So I had family responsibilities also. So all this was going on, and still there was a clear message coming from inside of me, call that as intuition, telling me that, hey, this is the time to move forward in your career, do something different. And during that time, I felt the need for professional help. As in, one Sunday evening, Rupesh, I was sitting in my living room, and I actually searched on Google for a life coach. And I found a couple of profiles, and I found one of the profiles suitable, and I spoke to that person. That person's name is Milin Jadhav. And I spoke to him, and that one conversation, I felt comfortable with him, and I started working with him, as in, I hired him as a coach. Now, he was a life coach, he was not a career coach, but that whole process of coaching, a professional working with you, completely unbiased, completely non judgmental, completely supporting you, that whole experience helped me so much. I worked with Milin for almost 9 months to 1 year in 2014, and it helped me immensely. It helped me immensely. And then that is the time I realized that coaching is very, very powerful. That's one. Secondly, I decided that I want to become a coach, because by that time I had come to a point that I want to work in people development area. Because I like communicating with people. I like to learn a lot of things every day, especially the self development part. I like. And when I experienced this whole coaching process, I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to become a coach, and I want to develop this speciality. I want to work with mid career professionals who may be going through a similar journey that I'm going through right now. Maybe they want to change their careers, or they want to do something different with their career. So that's where I identified that niche to get into. But the first part was to become a coach. So that's where I encountered coaching in a nice way, and that's where I found that to be the next step in my career.
So what we are saying is, while you are trying to search the answers to your questions, to your problems, it indirectly helped you to find out your niche, because you were also going through the same phase, which was mid-career. You were trying to change something, and because coaching is something you were really passionate about, and the topic which you felt would be the most appropriate would be helping other people who are in the similar boat as you are, helping them identify the career options and transition them from the place where they are currently maybe unhappy with what they are doing in the career, and helping them, guiding them as a career coach so that they can get near to the goal of what they are passionate towards when it comes to career. So indirectly finding answers to questions of your own problems, you are able to identify the niche which you finally wanted to pursue.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Rupesh, because I was going through that journey even after 18 years of corporate experience, and I was about what 40 at that point in time, and I said that, hey, coaching can be so empowering, so encouraging, and it helped me develop clarity. So I said, hey, you know what? This can be helpful to so many thousands of people who could be looking for this kind of professional help. And I said, because I have traveled that journey, I have lived that journey, I felt that I can be that person who can be of service to these mid-career professionals.
And how did you plan this transition, or how did you cross the bridge from being in the job and moving out and doing something of your own? Because I think you might need to do planning when it comes to financial aspect, and even taking care of things at the personal level. So can you just share some insights on how did you plan this transition?
Yeah, sure, Rupesh. So planning is an important aspect of any transition in life. And since we are talking about career transition here, definitely there is planning that is required. Especially it becomes critical because one is at a midlife situation. Like I was 40 at that time. I had a family to take care of. I was the only earning member in the family. So if I'm looking at changing my career, leaving my corporate job and wanting to do something different in my career, definitely it's a critical piece to plan it out properly. So first part of planning was first spoke to my wife, Shubhangi, telling her that this is something that's going on in my head, and I'm thinking about doing something different in my career. And we had a conversation, and she asked me, Hemant, you have good role in this great company that you have been working with. Your career is going well. You're the only earning member in the family. We have a young son. Isn't this a big risk? And she was right. I mean, she was thinking about the family, and rightly so. And I said that I know this is a big risk, but I also was clear about this, that if I did not take that risk, if I do not take that risk, then it will be the biggest risk of my life, is what I told her at that time. I don't know where I found courage or clarity to say that in that moment. And when she heard that from me, she said that I can see that determination in you, and I'm going to support you through this journey. And she absolutely stood like a rock with me throughout the journey. That was one part. The second part was I spoke to my parents, father and my mother. My father is no more, passed away in 2014, but he was alive when I started thinking about career change. So one evening I spoke to both my mom and dad together. I sat them down and I said that I want to share something with you. I want to change my career. I'm thinking about doing something different, what I like to do. And both of them were very supportive of me. They said that, go ahead, Hemant, there is no worry. You have our blessings. And that was such a relief for me that I had complete family support. And the next person that I talked to, Rupesh, was my financial planner. And you absolutely right, you brought the financial aspect. It's a critical aspect because it's a practical aspect, it's a need to run the family. So the next person I spoke to is my dear friend and also financial planner. His name is Chentil Iyer. I spoke to him saying that, hey, Chentil, I'm going to leave my job maybe in few months, and I'm going to start a new career. I'm getting into coaching, I'm getting into training, and I don't know how much money I'm going to make next year if I quit my job. So we sat down, me, my wife, and my financial planner, Gentil. We sat down, we looked at different scenarios, that what will happen if Hemant quits his job in, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, and let's say he's not earning anything. for the next 3 months, 6 months, here, what will happen? We kind of created these different scenarios and we looked at the financial numbers. And it gave me clarity that, okay, I have this much of time. For example, he told me that, okay, so you have 1 year time with you, Hemant, to quit your job and start doing something on your own. Whatever you want to do, you do that in 1 year and start earning money. That took away anxiety to a certain extent, to a great extent, I would say. And these are different aspects of planning that were there. There is more to planning in terms of actually looking at what is it that I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. So the first part of the whole planning process is exploration, which I mentioned about earlier, that I was reading books, I was trying to find out more about myself, call that as enhancing self-awareness. I was doing that already. The second part was once I identified that, hey, I want to do coaching, and for this reason, because I love coaching, it has helped me, and I want to help other mid-career professionals, so I want to do coaching. So how do I do coaching? So I need to prepare myself. And then preparation stage, so I need to do certification, so I started finding out information about that. All of those aspects. There is one more aspect, Rupesh, which I must share with you and all the listeners and audience that who is listening to this podcast, is there was an element which came up with my coach, and I told him that, hey, I want to start my new career. I want to start a new life in a new way, but I don't want this old Hemant to run that new show. I want to really become a new, as in, I want to transform myself at different levels. And how do I do that? So we had a conversation, and my coach suggested to me a life transforming course, which was a landmark forum. And I immediately enrolled for that program. And Milin was the person who suggested to me that, hey, if you want to transform yourself, there is one course that I would recommend highly. Go ahead and do the Landmark Forum. And I immediately enrolled for that course. And I completed my Landmark Forum in 2014. It gave me tremendous amount of clarity about myself, about my life. It transformed me in many ways. And then I said, okay, now I am ready to create a new life and a new career. So these were different aspects. There is more, but I will share that with you in the flow of the conversation.
Thanks, Hemant, for sharing us the different perspective. So you mentioned about first self-exploration phase, where you basically asked questions to yourself, did some introspection to understand what you really want to do. And once that was a bit clear to you, you then went ahead, discussed the option with your parents, your wife, and also discussed it with financial planner to understand how much time you can sustain with, say, for example, no income. And then you went about, okay, this is the time you have, and then how would you go ahead and plan to earn a sustainable income in the niche which you wanted to pursue. So I think that gives a fair bit of clarity, Hemant, and thanks for sharing that personal story. So I would now like to take forward our conversation to one of the most sought after topics that runs on top of the mind of more or less every mid-level professional, which is about the career planning and challenges associated with it. And here, while we move forward, I want to dissect our entire conversation into three main parts. So, the first part is, say, someone wants to identify what is the right career path for him. Sometimes we land up into a career which we might not enjoy, and we also don't really know what we want to do from career per se. So, more or less, if I can call it as a career assessment phase. The second part which I wanted to touch base was about once we determine, okay, what I want to do, then how we make that shift, how we go ahead about changing the career. And the third piece is once we do the change, we are into a career which we like, but sometimes after being in that career for say 2 3 years, it may happen that there is some stagnancy that begins to creep in. So from that point, when there is a stagnancy, how can you reignite the passion and grow? The third part which I wanted to discuss. So having said that, let's go ahead and dig a bit deeper into the first part, which is the career assessment. So what will be your approach on helping him or her in finding out what one really wants from his career? So, do we have any framework or specific steps that you take to help them identify?
It's very nice that you kind of broke it down into three steps, like assessment, and then going about actual changing the career, and then stabilizing and growing in your career. So nicely done. I'll first talk about assessment. So the assessment piece, so I can go back to that time when I was assessing my life and career at that time. And career and life, they are integrated aspects, to each other. Career wise, I was carrying high responsibility on my shoulders at that point in time. I was playing a program manager role. But what it also meant was that there were lots of demands at work from my role because it was a critical program, it was a large program. So work life balance was missing. There was a lot of stress. Work life balance was missing, so I was not able to spend time with my family. And as I shared earlier, my son was young. I mean, he was, only 2 years old at that point in time. I mean, I'm talking about 2014. And I was not able to spend time with him, which left me guilty. I used to leave early to office, like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, would return from office, let's say by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening, sometimes even later than that. So I would be tired by that time. I won't have energy. So that was one part which I was not happy about. The second aspect was the work itself. I was not enjoying it. I was enjoying my career, I was enjoying my roles. There was satisfaction, but especially the last 1 year of my career, I did not enjoy it so much. There was a lot of stress, stakeholder conflicts, and so on, so forth. It impacted my life. It impacted my life to the extent that it impacted my health as well, because the working hours were long. So my eyes would strain. I would have, I used to experience migraines. I had to actually take painkillers to go through the week, at least 3, 4, 5 strong painkillers to go through that. So health was getting impacted. I was not getting time for exercise, or I was not feeling energized to even exercise. So these were aspects that were getting impacted. So then I asked myself a question, that is it really worth it to continue this way? And when I started asking that question to myself repeatedly over a period of time, the clear answer that started emerging was no. So that was also an assessment, that is this working for me? Is this giving me what I'm looking for? So the answer was no. And then I started really seriously thinking about what needs to change here, what I need to do differently. Now, the other aspect of assessment is, if not this, what is next? That's the other aspect of assessment. So it includes various elements like, what are my interests, what are my skills, what is my experience that I can bring, what kind of career options that I can look at. Like I shared with you earlier, that I always enjoyed working with people, interactions, communication, self development, learning. So what kind of career will give me these opportunities is also an assessment part. Another aspect is, what are my personal values? Like I valued work life balance a lot. I valued my health a lot at that juncture, and always, of course. And those values were getting impacted. So it is also an assessment based on values, assessment based on my strengths, assessment based on my whole career journey, what I have enjoyed, what my achievements have been, what are my needs now. So there are various elements. Also, the element of personality, and what's my personality, what kind of careers it is suitable for. So assessment has all of these angles. And as I'm sharing that with you, so when I coach mid-career professionals today, I take them through this journey where they become aware of themselves along all of these aspects. That is the assessment piece. So assessment has also the third angle, which is about, hey, if I, when I looked at coaching, right, I said, okay, can I look at coaching as an alternate career or as the next career? Then I looked at coaching as a field. What kind of opportunities does it offer? What kind of work can I do in the world out there? So it also has that element of, is it feasible, is it viable, is it going to give me livelihood, is it going to give me enough money and returns when I get into it full time? So that is also an element of assessment which I looked at.
What I understand is you are saying that we should look at different aspects when we do our self assessment. One is about your personal values as to what you value more. Second is understanding your personality, what kind of person you are, your strengths. And third angle is whatever you decide, you also check what kind of opportunity it presents, whether it has an enough ROI for you to pursue it going forward. So all the three angles need to be looked at. Now, Hemant, is there any specific way or a scientific way to find out about these aspects? Because people say find your strengths, right? But more or less, many people struggle with finding their own strengths. Are there any scientific way to approach these?
Yes, absolutely, Rupesh. I mean, there are scientific ways, and we have scientific tools to assess these. And you're right that if you ask somebody that what are your strengths, they would be vague about it. Somebody would say, "Oh, communication." Somebody would say planning. And if you ask them that what are your top five or top seven strengths, they would struggle to tell you with a lot of confidence. But yes, there are tools which help you find what your top seven, top 10 significant strengths are. And we use those tools in our coaching program. Same is for your interests, same is for your values, same is for your skills, same is for your achievements, same is for your career journey, what you have learned so far. So, in our coaching program, we have developed scientific tools and scientific assignments and exercises which will actually tell you that all of these things in a factual manner. Some of these are scientific instruments, such as psychometric test, for example, which will tell you what kind of personality you have. Also, there are psychometrics which will tell you what your strengths are, and other exercises which we have developed, which will tell you what your values are, what your skills are, what your learning from career journey can be. It's an introspection that you do, but we make it very scientific. So there are tools that are available, Rupesh, and we use them extensively in our coaching program.
And as an output of the career assessment which is done, what is it that they have a
Yeah,
clarity?
so they get clarity on, first of all, who they are as a person. When if I ask somebody that, hey, can you tell me about your personality? And here we are talking about personality as an intrinsic aspect. Here, personality means that what are your behavioral preferences. Now, there are many aspects about our own behavior that we are blind to or not so much aware of. So when you go through the scientific assessments, you become aware of the scientific tool that we use, the psychometric that we use, which tells you 30 different aspects about your own personality, which one cannot just sit and say that, hey, without a scientific tool, it's very difficult to tell about yourself. So they get clarity. So one of the outcomes of assessment is clarity, enhanced self-awareness. So that's one personality piece. The values piece also tells you that what is really important for you. That introspection, that reflection about what is important in my life today gives you an opportunity to actually write down what are your top 10 values are, and is your career and is your life aligned to those values or not. Because one thing, Rupesh, that I have found is that when my work, my life is not aligned to my personal values, there is dissatisfaction, there is a sense of non-fulfillment. But when my work, my life is aligned to my personal values, there is joy, there is fulfillment, there is satisfaction, and it makes me happy. Assessment also tells you that, are you using your skills to the fullest? Are you using your learning from your life and your career? Are you taking forward your strengths? Strengths also another thing, right? There is scientific assessment for that. Once you know what your strengths are, then you can leverage those strengths. A lot of times it happens that people conventionally keep working on fixing their weaknesses, and that approach doesn't work. But when you know your strengths, when you know what your seven significant strengths are, which we find out through a tool, you can actually build your life and your career around those strengths. Now, for example, today I have built my coaching practice and the work that I do around my strengths. Yes, there are certain areas of development also that I have, which I work on, and I have other members on my team who work on areas where I'm weak. I can do that because I know what my strengths are and what is that I'm working towards and why I'm working towards that future. That clarity gives a lot of motivation. It gives a lot of inspiration actually to move forward. So these are all the outcomes of the assessment that one can expect. In addition to that, once a person knows all these aspects about themselves, they can actually look at different possibilities in their career. They can come up with different options for themselves, and they can pursue what is most suitable for them. So that's another aspect, which is a practical aspect of career change, that they can actually look at different roles. It could be within the same industry, or it could be a completely different career. There are multiple options that would emerge from that exploration. So outcome of these assessments and exploration is also coming up with different possibilities in your career and life.
Thanks, Hemant. That was very profound and quite detailed. Now, after going through the assessment phase, once I have a clarity on, of course, the personality traits and also what are the different career option one have, which can be with respect to what kind of roles would better suit a person based on his traits and his interest, what kind of domain he can look at. So once we have that fair bit of idea, and then we move to the next stage, which is about how do we make that transition. From that perspective, how do generally one plan for that career change? What are the steps specifically one should take, since it's a mid level where there are many other aspects, as we discussed briefly at the start of our conversation, the personal, the financial, and also if the industry is totally different than what you are working on today, then how we cross that bridge. So would you like to highlight and share some insights on how one can make that
So
transition?
first of all, if we look at career change, so let's look at what career change is. Now, career change could mean different things to different people. All the clients that I have worked with in the last 5.5 years, I think I would have worked with more than 200 clients so far in the last 5.5 years. Everybody's definition of career change is different, and it is completely defined by them what they are looking for. For example, some clients, when they talk about career change, they're actually talking about a job change. Some clients are looking for a role change because they're not happy with that role and that role is not giving them satisfaction. People who are looking for job change, the current organization is not maybe the right place for them. They're not happy for different reasons. Career change could also mean that a complete change of career. Like in my case, I completely transitioned from a program manager role in IT to becoming a coach and facilitator. Complete change. Now, for somebody else, a career change could also mean a different role in the same industry. Some people may not take a big bang approach to that. Now, career change, you talk about transition. Yes, transition is an important phase to look at. So, how I would look at it is this way: first, explore yourself, right? Yourself, as in, first explore who you are. What are the different aspects that there are about you, right? Which we talked about: career journey, your values, your skills, your strengths, your achievements, your personality, and so on. Explore that. From that exploration, the outcome is, hey, what do you see for yourself? What kind of picture that is emerging from there? What kind of roles that you would enjoy? Because you also look at interests. What kind of roles you would enjoy? It could be within the same company, it could be within the same industry, it could be another organization, and it could be a complete change of career. Look at that. Once you have identified that, then start preparing yourself. That is where the preparation stage starts. Preparing means that you start finding out more about those roles, that talking to people who are playing those roles, doing your search on internet. There is a lot of information. There is so much information available these days on internet, and you can also talk to people who are playing those roles, find out more information, do your market research around that, and then start preparing towards those roles. And it may take you some time. Like in my case, it took me almost a year and a half since the time I started thinking about career change, and when actually I did that, it took me almost 1.5 years. So it could take time for you to explore, identify options, prepare yourself, and then you start actually positioning yourself also. Because if it is related to, let's say, job change or a role change within the same industry, you have to also prepare yourself by doing some courses or developing skills on the job that are required in that new role, and then also positioning yourself, that you need to talk to people that, hey, I'm now ready to do this role. You put it in your CV, put it on LinkedIn and stuff like that. You start preparing yourself and positioning yourself. So summarizing this, I would say: exploration, identifying options, shortlisting your options, and start doing the market research, start doing the analysis around that, data gathering around that, start preparing yourself, then start positioning yourself. So these are different stages that one goes through, and I did go through all of these phases, and so my clients. So we go through these different stages so that you don't rush to any conclusion randomly. You go through this systematically and incrementally. And that is how I would look at career transition if one wants to do it systematically and in a scientific way.
That was quite methodical. And typically, based on your experience with your clients, what is an average time it takes for people to go through all these steps and move to the career which they are looking out for? Do you think there is a time that can be
Yeah,
approximated?
sure. That's another great question, Rupesh, because a lot of clients ask me this question in the very first conversation that, hey man, how much time it's gonna take me to move from this role to the next role. Now, this is a decision that one is taking in the middle of their life and middle of their career, right? Typically, I work with clients who have more than 10 years of experience, some 15, some 20, some more than 25, 30 also. Now, any decision that you make at that point in time is going to, in my view, it has to be taken thoughtfully, and everybody wants to take that thoughtfully because there is a lot at stake. So, having said that, give yourself time. Give yourself time to explore. Now, if everybody's journey is different, but based on my experience going through my own journey and journeys of so many of my clients in the last more than 5 years, I can say safely that this is how the rough numbers look like. Exploration, that the stage that I talked about, typically takes about 6 months' time. Exploration, enhancing your self awareness, looking at different aspects about yourself. That's about 6 months. Identifying the options that are suitable for you, give it another a month or so, couple of months. It entirely depends on the individual how much they want to give to themselves, but that decision making can take a month or two. There is some brainstorming that we do around what option will work best for you after gathering data. So get data gathering can take time also, so give it a couple of months for these different options and then shortlisting that. So 6 plus 2, 8, right? Then for preparation stage, one should give themselves at least a few months' time. Now, if you want to do a course, which let's say takes 3 months or 6 months, you need to give yourself that much time. Like when I started into coaching, the first thing that I did was enrolling for a good coach certification program, coach training program, and it was a 6 months program. So I gave myself those 6 months. So give yourself, let's say, around 4 to 6 months to prepare yourself. During the same time, you can start positioning yourself as well, right? Talking to people, letting them know that you are willing to take up this role, you are interested. Start exploring opportunities within the organization, outside the organization. Start talking to people. So that takes, let's say, 4 to 6 months together with preparation. So 6 months for exploration, let's say a couple of months for shortlisting your options, identifying the options that you want to go with. So took couple of months for that, and then around 6 months time to prepare yourself and start positioning yourself. So around a year's time, year to year and a half is one should get prepared for. And I would say that at the middle of the career, that somebody who has, let's say, 15 years of experience, if you look at a job change at that level, that itself can take anywhere between 6 months to a year's time, a job change. Now when you're looking at career change, career transition, give yourself that much time because it's worth it. Because whatever decision you make out of that, you will be absolutely clear and convinced about that, hey, I'm making the right decision. So that's how. So in nutshell, give yourself a year's time minimum to explore it fully, prepare yourself and start exploring opportunities.
So I think what you have mentioned is pretty straightforward and clear. Exploration is about knowing yourself better from all angles, and which typically takes around 6 months. Then you come out with few options, and then you identify which is the most suitable for you, which you want to move forward with, which may take couple of months. And then you prepare for the transition, which means there might be skill gaps which you have to take care of. It might happen that it is in a totally different industry, and I want to just come onto this point in a minute or so. But then what you're saying is you try to understand what are the gaps, go ahead and do certifications or whatever other aspects that can help you to close the gap, and then start establishing yourself or start establishing the credibility by positioning yourself that now you have those skills, and then how you can market yourself. Maybe, as you said, go ahead and change your profile, resume, which gives clarity as to what you are looking for and how you have developed that credibility. Go to LinkedIn, do the networking part of it, and then take it forward from here. So while we were discussing this, one thought came to my mind was, let's take an example that someone is working in an IT industry or a banking industry. Now, how easy or difficult it is, or have you seen those cases where there's a huge drastic change where one is completely moving to a different industry, say advertising field. So in these kind of drastic change, is it practical enough for someone to move or transition from the role which they are currently doing, which is totally different, and they are moving to a, as I said,
Yeah, that
different
question
role?
also I get a lot from my clients, especially when I speak to them for the first time. Now, important thing to see here is, which you alluded to earlier, Rupesh, is that what is the skill set that you have right now? What are the transferable skills? If you want to move from one domain to another, what are the skills that you have which are transferable? Look at that. Like in my case, I had 18 years of experience and I had developed certain skill sets which I can easily use in my coaching, and I use in my coaching today. Similarly, there are many clients who are also in their leadership development journeys whom I coach. So, career change, Rupesh, is also about people moving from one level in the organization to the next. That is also career change because somebody is moving, let's say, from a manager position to, let's say, a senior manager position or in a leadership position. That is also a career change. And there are skill gaps, as you earlier mentioned. So, how one needs to look at that? Even in that scenario, this is applicable, that what are the transferable skills? What are the things that you do well already? How you can continue that? And what are the skills that I need to acquire in that new role? It could be a different industry, or it could be the same organization, but a different role will also require a different skill set, or at least some more skills that you need to develop, which you have not developed so far to the extent that the role requires. So, like you asked me, is it practical to move from one industry to another? The answer is yes. But the approach to that will be completely customized to that person. But if I look at it this way, so one is the skill set part, which I talked about and which you also spoke about earlier. The other part is interest. Are you really interested in that kind of work? Some people might have already done, their own research on the thing because they are interested in that field. Like one of my clients, she's from Mumbai, and she came to me when she was working in a totally different field, and she wanted to get into design and she wanted to get into innovation. And the work that she was doing was not related to design or not related to innovation. But when we started going through the coaching journey, she actually started relating those things to her current role. And she started looking at, oh, how can I look at design in my own role? What can I do differently in my role? How can I apply design thinking, for example, in my role, the work that I'm doing? How can I apply innovation in my work that I'm doing right now? And slowly but surely, over a period of time, she was able to get into that role in the same organization where she started working on design and innovation. And of course, she learned through courses, she did a lot of research on her own around design thinking, around innovation. And now, after working on it for about a year and a half, now she has switched to another bigger organization in a proper, like a mainstream design and innovation related role. But it was a journey. So she moved from, per se, a role which was not at all related to design and innovation, in her own words, became a design and innovation related role over a period of time, and now she has actually moved into that role over a period of time. So yes, so one has to go through that kind of a journey.
Yeah, Hemant, I think it's interesting. So what you are saying is sometimes the role which you aspire for might be in the same industry. It's just that you have to open your eyes and see how the interest which you have can be applied to the industry which you are working on, or find the closest option which can make that journey a bit quicker, and that bridge the person can cross in a bit easier and a quicker manner. So I think that gives that
Absolutely right,
perspective as well.
Rupesh. And you use a very nice word there, bridge, from where you are today and where you want to go. And the reason why a lot of people struggle, and I struggled also with that, is that they don't know how to. Some of them know, oh, what I want to do next. I want to get into that role, but I don't know how. Like some clients come to me saying that, hey, I want to develop myself as a leader. I want to get into VP role. Today I'm a VP. I want to become a VP. But VP is a senior role and that's a leadership role. I don't know how to get there. I want to get there, but I don't know how to get there. And then what we do is actually we build the bridge step by step, how to get there.
And I think it's a good segue to the third part, which I wanted to discuss, was about the growth in the career, right? So sometimes you say, for example, now you know what you want to do. You have went ahead and shifted to the new industry or the new role which you are looking for. You have been working there for some time, but after that, the growth gets stagnant. And now you want to move from one level to another level, which the point which you were mentioning, right? Someone wants to become a VP of that company. So how does one approach it? How can one come out of that stagnancy, or how one can develop the skills which are needed for career growth? So maybe we can just discuss on that piece. So why does this first of all happen, where that stagnancy begins to creep in, even if you're working into an industry or a role which you like or you decided to
Yeah,
follow?
that's an interesting question that you ask, right? So stagnancy could be because of many reasons. Now, what stagnancy means to an individual is also an individual definition. Somebody may be doing the same thing, let's say for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and they feel that, oh, now the work has become monotonous. There is nothing new in this, and it becomes, stagnancy. Another aspect to this is, oh, I'm playing the same role. I'm AVP for last 3 years. I haven't got promotion in last 3 years. Oh, before that, I used to get promotion every 2 years. Now it's been 3 years and there is no sign of promotion. All my discussions with my bosses are not going anywhere. I don't see that happening. That is another aspect of stagnancy. Third aspect of stagnancy could be that, hey, I'm not finding my work interesting anymore. It's not satisfying anymore. It's like I'm dragging myself to my work. I don't look forward to it. So I don't know what is happening. There could also be another aspect that, oh, now it's not fulfilling, what I'm looking for from my work. That learning is not happening now. And that could also mean stagnation for people.
Right. So, Hemant, what would you suggest? How can one come out of this stagnancy and achieve the next growth which he is looking out for in that
I get
company?
this question asked a lot, especially when senior working professionals come to me and when they say that, hey, you know what, I'm not looking for career change drastically, but I want to move to the next role, right? But to me, that is also a career change because you're in a certain orbit, right? If we use that metaphor, that you are in a certain orbit right now and you're moving in that orbit, let's say for last 2 years, 3 years, and you're stuck in that orbit. Now you have an aspiration that you want to move to the next orbit. Now, if we use the rocket analogy, how a satellite moves into the next orbit, one, you need fuel. You need extra fuel to move to the next orbit, and you also need direction. You need very precise direction where you need to go and the trajectory that you need to take. And there is also this term called escape velocity. So, three elements, right? You need the fuel, and that fuel is the burning desire. Why you want to move to the next role? What is it that you will achieve when you move to that next role? Why is it so important for you to move to that next role? Right? That's the burning desire. Second aspect is direction. Many people get lost with the direction, that how do I do that? And that is where the skill set part, the skill gaps part comes into play. Once you're aware about yourself, you know what your skills are and what skill gaps you need to work on, you're clear, you have a direction. So one of the things that we do, Rupesh, in the coaching program is create a roadmap for my clients that, okay, this is what you will be doing in the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years time, depending on your goal and the timeline that you have assigned to it. So the direction part of it. And third is the escape velocity. There has to be velocity which will help you escape the stagnancy, and that velocity meaning consistent actions that you take on the ground, because only actions produce results. Only thinking about it is not going to make any change. And another aspect which I will bring in here is that what got you here won't take you there. So you need to do something differently, and you need to develop that escape velocity with yourself through the consistent actions that you need to take. So, summarizing, three elements: one is the burning desire, why you want to do it; second is the escape velocity, consistent actions. After you have defined the direction, that what's the bridge that you're going to build there, and what are the things that you are going to work on, that clarity. Once you develop that clarity, the direction becomes clear, and you create a roadmap, and that is your trajectory. So that is how I would go about tackling the stagnancy.
That's a amazing metaphor that you have come up with, Hemant. And I think it gels up with different attributes of a growth path which one would look at. So as you pointed out, the burning desire needs to be there. There need to be a fuel, and you need to know where you want to go. And once you know that, then you need to take actions, which is the escape velocity which you have been talking about. So, Hemant, while we have discussed all the three key challenges that a person usually face when it comes to his career planning, not knowing what to do, which is career assessment, then how do I transition from what I don't enjoy to what I want to do, which is your career movement, and the third is about the career growth once you are stagnant. So, I want to also touch upon one of the topic which usually comes in mind of many people about how do you balance work and life when you are in a career which would demand a lot of time from you, and there will be challenges with respect to deadlines and pressure and other aspects, right? So many people talk about work life balance, but is it practical enough to think that there can be a balance between work and life when you are in a demanding career? What are your thoughts on that,
Sure,
Hemant?
sure. I mean, it's an important aspect which gets talked about a lot, work life balance. Now, my view, and it's my personal view, is that work is an important element of life. I mean, even if we take a week's time, right, 7 days, typically we work from Monday to Friday, 8 to 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours a day. That makes it about 40 to 50 hours in a week. That's a lot. Now, if one is happy and clear and energized about the work that they are doing, work life balance becomes much easier, I would say. Right? It doesn't solve the complete problem, but it becomes much easier. So that is one thing. The second thing is time management. Now, time management is actually about self management. Are you clear about what your life priorities are? Like in my case, there are 8 areas in my life which I have identified which are important to me, like health, profession, learning, relationships, finance, social, spirituality, and hobbies. It could be travel, adventure. Now, I want to balance all of these over a period of time. I cannot have all of these elements in single day, not even a week, right? But am I doing all these eight important things in my life over a period of months, or a 3 months, or a 6 months, or a year? If I think I can do that over that time period, I think I feel that I am balanced. My life is balanced. So one needs to look at work life balance in a holistic way. It may happen people who are working in senior leadership roles, or senior roles, they may have large responsibilities on their shoulders. There could be months where there is a lot of work, but are you taking enough time off after that project delivery is done? The main aspect is, are you burning yourself out? That's the question that I would ask. And take care of different aspects of your life which are important to you.
Quite interesting and a rational way to look at a work life balance. So what you are suggesting is don't look at a weekly basis, but zoom out your life and look at probably a larger time frame basis to see whatever your priorities are. As you suggested, for you it is health, professional, relationship, learning, etc. And whatever the life priorities are there for people, are they able to accomplish that in that time frame? So that is more critical, and have that farsightedness and zoom out when you talk about work life balance, and not just think at the transactional level that today was I able to complete the priorities, right? That is not the correct way to look at it, but look at the holistic level at a bigger time frame level. So that brings us to the last segment of our show, which I call the quickfire segment, where I will be firing some bullets at you, and you need to respond back to them in a minute or so.
Okay, I'm ready. Yes. You scared me there, but yeah, I'm ready.
So, what is one productive hack that you usually practice and you like to share with
So,
us?
whatever I need to do, I put that in my calendar as a task. That's my productivity hack.
Who is the famous personality you follow and
Famous
why?
personality I'm absolutely fond of and inspired by APJ Abdul Kalam, because the way he went about his life, where he came from, how he shaped up his career, the contribution that he made to India, to the society overall, and he became the president of India. And he is an inspiration to so many people, and he keeps inspiring me.
And what are the two books that you like the most that you want to recommend?
So one book, right, which was a life changer for me in many ways, was this book called The Pathfinder by Nicholas Lohr. That is where my career transformation journey began. So that is one book that I would definitely recommend. There is another book I would recommend that is called Love by Leo Buscaglia, and it's an amazing book. It's on a different topic, it's not related to career, but it's about way of life, and what love means. Another book, right? So you asked me two, but I'm giving you three. So there is another book which is called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Is another small but very inspiring book.
Thanks for sharing us a bonus
Sure.
recommendation, Hemant. Those were some of the amazing answers, Hemant. Thank you. And if someone wants to reach out to you, how can they
Okay,
do it, Hemant?
so they can reach out to me from our website, which is www.hemantdeshpande.com, or they can write to us directly on this email ID, info@hemantdeshpande.com.
That brings us to the end of our show, Hemant. This was indeed quite power-packed conversation. We have given the listeners loads of insights around the nitty-gritties on what are to look out for in transforming and shaping one's career. And as the saying goes, career progression and its success is a journey and not a destination. So it becomes important to apply the principles you have shared on an ongoing basis for the continued success. So thanks a lot, Hemant, for coming in today and sharing those precious gems with us. I wish you all the success and luck for impacting lives of many more mid-level professionals and helping them in their career transformation.
Thank you for having me on your show today, and it was a real pleasure. I really enjoyed this conversation. I really, love the questions that you asked, and I hope that our conversation will inspire more people in their mid careers to start chasing their dreams. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for tuning in today. To summarize, the three key takeaways from the show were: 1. If you plan to make a career transition, ensure to give yourself at least around 1.5 years of time. Plan it in 3 phases. A. 6 months of exploration phase, where you discover more about yourself, your skills, your personal values, strengths, personality type, as well as your interest. B. 2 months for identifying various career options that you have based on the output of the exploration phase, then doing the market research, and then finally shortlisting the right career option for you. C. 6 months of preparation phase so as to identify your skill gaps and then work towards closing those gaps by acquiring the required knowledge. In parallel, also start to position yourself by socializing yourself in LinkedIn and spreading the message in your network. 2. Look at work-life balance more holistically by zooming out. Have clarity on what areas of life are important to you and then identify what are goals you want to achieve in those areas in the specific time frame. And if you are able to achieve those goals in that time frame, then it means you already have your work and life in balance. 3. To come out of the career stagnancy, you need fuel, which is the burning desire to achieve your goals, trajectory or the direction, which is clarity of what you want to achieve, and the escape velocity, that is consistent actions that you have to take to achieve your goal. Remember, only action can give you results. I hope you enjoyed listening to the show today, and if you like what you heard, then please do subscribe, rate and review the show on Apple Podcast or Castbox. If you feel the information will help someone, then please don't forget to share it with them through various social media channels like Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. You can access the show notes for the show by visiting themidlifestation.com/Hemant. That's all I have for you today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I will see you back in the next fortnight with another esteemed guest. Until then, let us continue to take those small actions towards the betterment of midlife.